UFC 271 took place this past Saturday on February 12th, and I'm going to give a recap for the card and basically go back and tell you guys what I predicted, what I thought about the fights on the main card. So let's get into it right away. Isreal Adesanya versus Robert Whittaker. Razor close fight. I predicted Isreal Adesanya to win by decision, 3 rounds to 2, and that's exactly what he did. He won by decision. However, I think that he should have lost that fight. Honestly, I think Robert Whittaker should have got his hand raised. Now, I can understand how some people could have scored it to Adesanya, given that the commentary was pretty biased towards Adesanya. So biased that a lot of other UFC fighters who were watching the fight, a lot of other analysts had to basically take off their earphones because they couldn't really comprehend what they were hearing when they were actually watching the fight. I'm not going to get into that, but I certainly knew while I was listening to the commentary that something was up, that they were being pretty unfair to Whittaker and what he was doing, and I feel like they were overplaying what Adesanya was doing. Now, Adesanya controlled that fight. He had control pretty much the whole time where he was in the center of the cage. He was walking down Robert Whittaker. Robert Whittaker looked to be the guy who seemed as if he was in more danger throughout the fight. However, if you really look at the rounds closely, Isreal Adesanya clearly wins the first round. Second round, if you look at it closely, who lands the more damaging strikes? Robert Whittaker. Now, Isreal landed some great kicks, but if you look at the takedown mixed with the more damaging strikes, you have to give the second round to Robert Whittaker. Now, the third round, I gave to Adesanya, but if you look at the fourth and the fifth round, those are Robert Whittaker rounds, and I know it's pretty difficult to really see that if you just watch the fight once, considering that Isreal Adesanya is taking control of the cage, he's in the center of the octagon, he's moving forward. But if you actually look at it strike for strike and who is implementing their game plan better, Robert Whittaker won the fight 3 rounds to 2 with the takedowns, but not only the takedowns, he just did more than Adesanya. He landed the harder, significant strikes in those rounds, and once again, Adesanya just really didn't do enough after the first and third round. He really just didn't do much, and it was razor close, so I'm not going to call it a robbery, but I think that Robert Whittaker should have got his hand raised. Watch the fight back without any commentary and let me know what you think, but what do they do from there? I think that Robert Whittaker is going to have to fight Marvin Vettori, considering that both of those guys are coming off of basically 2 losses to Isreal Adesanya, the champ. You basically should eliminate one of those guys from the top of the division. You can't have both of them up there holding up the division. Have those guys fight each other. Isreal Adesanya, he should fight Jared Cannonier, who just knocked out Derrick Brunson. Let's get into that fight. So, first of all, I just want to go back to my point. I think Isreal Adesanya looked great. However, Robert Whittaker, technically, according to the MMA rules, won the fight. So, you know, what can he do to get a trilogy? It's going to be really hard for Whittaker. He might have to win 3 more fights. They're clearly the best in the world, and you know, I'm not upset that, you know, it didn't go his way. I'm not upset that they didn't give him the win, but I just think that he, you know, according to the rules of MMA, Robert Whittaker should have got his hand raised, and you know, Adesanya remains champ. Let's move into Derrick Brunson and Jared Cannonier. So, I picked Derrick Brunson to win, and I actually wanted Jared Cannonier to win, and that's what happened. Derrick Brunson lost. I was wrong in my pick. I said in my picks, I said Jared Cannonier on paper should win this fight, and that's what he did. He faced a lot of adversity in the first round, almost got submitted, and it looked like Derrick Brunson was cruising to victory. It looked like we were going to see another Derrick Brunson win, and Jared Cannonier really woke up in the second round, stayed composed, stuffed Derrick Brunson's takedowns, and basically exposed Derrick Brunson for the fighter that he is. He's shit on the feet. He's awful, doesn't know how to strike, looks lost out there, basically keeps his chin up and runs at you, and Jared Cannonier was able to put him away with an elbow against the cage, finish him off on the ground. So I think we should see Jared Cannonier fight Isreal Adesanya. Who would I pick? I would pick Isreal Adesanya to destroy Jared Cannonier. Considering that Isreal Adesanya has been fighting very tentatively and carefully, I wouldn't necessarily pick him to finish that fight because Jared Cannonier is durable and has great cardio, but I don't see Jared Cannonier winning. If Robert Whittaker can tune up Jared Cannonier in a fight, Adesanya can too. So let's get into the heavyweight co-main bout. Derrick Lewis and Tai Tuivasa, I picked Derrick Lewis to KO Tai Tuivasa. I said that if you're going to brawl, if you're going to trade in the pocket, you can't get hit by Derrick Lewis. You just can't get hit by him, and I was wrong. Tai Tuivasa showed that he has basically one of the best chins in the world, taking Derrick Lewis's heavy shots. Derrick Lewis basically got tired, and as soon as you basically turn Derrick Lewis into the nail, he's not a good nail. He's a good hammer, but he's not a good nail. It's basically when he faces adversity, he kind of wilts under the pressure. Tai Tuivasa got him up against the clinch, started rocking him, and as soon as he rocked Derrick Lewis seemed out on his feet, but honestly it seemed like he just was mentally defeated. Tai Tuivasa then landed a massive elbow against the cage and just flatline KOs Derrick Lewis. I was extremely impressed. I think that was kind of the passing of the torch in the heavyweight division. The changing of the guard, the old being Derrick Lewis, the new being Tai Tuivasa. So honestly, I'd love to see Tai Tuivasa face the winner of Tom Aspinall and Volkov, who are fighting in the main event at the UFC London card. And Derrick Lewis, you know, the knockout king, he's one loss. You know, I think he can get back in there and basically beat any other heavyweight aside from the guys who are really in the top 5. Maybe a rematch with Volkov if Volkov loses that fight. Maybe the loser of the Tom Aspinall-Volkov fight. So let's move on to Bobby Green, Nasrat, Haqparast. I picked Bobby Green to win by decision, 3 rounds to none. That's exactly what he did, tuned him up. Honestly, Bobby Green should be a bigger star. He got a lot of credit from the fans in Texas, and honestly, I think this was kind of his coming out party. I've known that Bobby Green was a savage for a long time. I've known how good he was on the feet. I've known how good his boxing was, but he really proved it to the world being on the main card here. Nasrat basically had no answers. I mean, Nasrat's decent, but again, Bobby Green is really that next level, and I think he deserves to be ranked now. I would love to see Bobby Green in the main event. Honestly, I would love to see him in a main event. I think that honestly, give him a big fight. Give him a big fight with someone in the top 15. Give him a main event, or give him a high place on a main card on the pay-per-view coming up this year. Bobby Green, one of my favorite fighters at this point. So main event, I don't know who he takes on. There are a lot of guys who are booked to fight in the lightweight division, but yeah. So anyway, that was my recap. Let me know what you guys think. Again, when it comes to the main event, just watch it back. No commentary, and you'll see my point. Again, according to the rules of MMA, and I've looked into them, Robert Whittaker should have got his hand raised that fight. Isreal Adesanya clearly won 2 rounds. Robert Whittaker won 3. So again, let me know what you think in the comments. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram, LucasJT19, and follow my gym YouTube channel, LucasTFitness. Thank you.